Do you want to know what I find to be the most outrageous thing in PureFlix's God's Not Dead? There are many moments from the film that I can choose from, such as just Willie Robertson being here, or how needlessly aggressive this professor is, or the fact that it's a miracle that he aspirates on his own blood and dies, because at least he accepted Jesus, man.
What happened here tonight is a cause for celebration.
Jesus, man.
What I think might be most ridiculous is this presentation from Josh here.
Cosmologists now agree that the universe began some 13.7 billion years ago in an event known as the Big Bang. In the beginning, there was an explosion, and in 3 minutes, 98% of the matter there is or ever will be was produced. We had a universe.
Josh argues that the first chapter of Genesis describes the Big Bang centuries before contemporary scientists would come to the same conclusion.
In other words, the origin of the universe unfolded exactly how one would expect after reading Genesis, and for 2,500 years, the Bible had it right, and science had it wrong.
It's not just that Josh, this ultra-conservative that is spending a significant portion of class time arguing about the existence of God, acknowledges that the Earth is billions of years old. I would imagine he would actually say about 6,000-ish.
This is the creationist point of view, is that apes came up here with a different species, and then man was created 6,000 years ago.
It's that PureFlix allowed this in the movie. According to Pew Research Center in 2015, about 60% of U.S. white evangelical Protestants do not believe in evolution. And until the early to mid-2000s, I would have been in that group too. Today I want to share about how I was indoctrinated into that belief and how I eventually escaped it. Content warning. Today's video includes the subjects domestic violence, animal cruelty, the German atrocities of World War II, and Kent Hovind using the R ableist slur. Viewer discretion is advised. What is the Big Bang? The Big Bang Theory is the current model that cosmologists use to describe how the universe came to be. A collection of hot gases would combine together and cause an explosion, creating the building blocks of our universe. It is also, and this is a fact, not evolution. So you might be asking, why are you conflating the two? Because it's what young Earth creationists do. Evolution is the process of natural selection that happens to species where over time it gradually develops. It develops into a different version of its species, into different species, all that kind of stuff. Max! Max is hanging around on the back table. Gotta being loud. Look at you, guy. You see yourself in the camera? You're a star. Allow me to give a haphazard example. Imagine there's an aisle full of mosquitoes and heather cows. How they all got there, let's just say for the sake of argument, they're there. Now, heather cows have thick layers of fur, and any mosquito that has too small of a beak could not penetrate that fur. Maybe. Again, for sake of argument, let's just say. Now, the mosquitoes that could not survive due to having too stout of a beak, they will not continue to live and pass on their genes, whereas those with longer beaks will be able to go on and live and breed. Thus, their long beak genetics will get carried on to the next. Over time, add little change after 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 little change, etc. You get new species. The idea of evolution did not begin with Charles Darwin, but he's the one that helped popularize it with his book on the origin of the species. Actually, I think the second "the" is not in the title. The Origin of Species. I thought there's an on there. Yeah, it's on the Origin of Species. Then again, this copy is one that was released by what was that beat? Ray Comfort.
Behold, the atheist's nightmare. Notice it has a point at the top for ease of entry. It's just the right shape for the human mouth.
I didn't know it when I bought it. I bought it wanting a copy of On the Origin of Species. And, well, it's a little annoying because he has a preface on here. That's the size of the font for, the preface, the introduction, whatever. This is the size of the font for the actual text. That's annoying. Now, those not familiar with young earth creationism might be asking yourself, why is that a problem for Christians? And that is because the Bible is the inerrant word of God. When it says the earth was created in 6 days, the earth was created in 6 days. When it says that humanity began with Adam and Eve, it means that humanity began with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. There are some parts of the Bible that are metaphorical, but not Genesis. That happened.
Morgan and I both hold to the belief that God created the heavens and the earth, all the animals, the people, in 6 days, I guess, and then 7th day he rested. That's what I believe.
Yep, I believe that.
And since Adam and Eve were created human, they could not have evolved from earlier animals.
We don't believe that humans evolved from apes.
Also, and this is just a side note that my weird brain goes to, it's not supposed to be a gotcha or anything like that, but the Bible says nothing about mycelium. Maybe not a weird thing to point out, but it's weird to me because it's not an animal, it's not a plant, it's its own thing. So mushrooms didn't exist in the Garden of Eden, I don't know. Again, not supposed to be some big gotcha like, aha, no mushrooms! It's just one of those, my brain is weird. To define a word I've already used, a young earth creationist is somebody that believes that the world is not millions or billions of years old, but instead under 10,000.
Wait a second, I thought you were a young earther. Yeah, 6,000 years ago is a long time. How long have you lived? There's some days. Woo! They take forever, don't they?
The Bible never says that the earth was created in 4000 BCE or anything like that. It's just extrapolated from the genealogy of the Bible. For example, in Genesis chapter 5, verse 3, and Adam lived 100. Why do people like the KJV? And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years and begat Enos. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begot Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 900 and... You get the point. By the way, if you ever plan on reading the Bible, get ready for genealogy. 1 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 1. Adam, Sheth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalaleel, Jared, Hanok, Methuselah, Lamech. You get the point. Except I'm going on. In Luke 3, verse 37, which was the son of Methuselah, which was the son of Enoch, which was the son of Jared, which was the son of Malaleel, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Enos, which was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. What you might be thinking now is, hey, wasn't this supposed to be your story? Why aren't you talking about you? Well, thank you for caring. I would love to talk about me. The earliest memory I have when it comes to the subject of evolution comes from kindergarten. One day we had someone come in and read us a picture book, as is often the case, and that day the subject was on evolution. It wasn't a particularly complex book, but even so, I think it might have been a little too much for me because the only thing that I really gathered from that day is fish turned into dinosaurs. The thought that this happened over millions of years ago, that didn't enter my head, just fish dinosaurs. So that day after school, I decided I had a little science experiment that I wanted to run. I thought that if I took Molly McFish out of the aquarium and put her outside, that she would turn into a dinosaur. Look at the Jurassic Park guy with his fossilized mosquitoes. I did it the smart way. Or I thought I was. One murdered fish later, it turns out that it's not how it works. Okay, so that story is actually a lie. Molly McFish is actually a fish I had years later. I have no idea what fish I murdered that day. When my mother discovered me standing over her rose bushes with a dead fish underneath, I explained to her my thought process. It's that day that I learned that evolution and Christianity could not coexist.
No one gets past the opening verses of the Bible without having to face the test of whether or not that person believes the Bible to be the authoritative Word of God. Do you submit to Scripture? Genesis 1 is your first test.
But of course, my miseducation did not end there. Not long thereafter, my mother would bring home a VHS copy of The Creation, an animated segment created by Hanna-Barbera for their Greatest Adventure series. Ooh, there's 2 toucans here. I know what I must do. The boys in the back are calling me cause. Because of their claws? No, because they're macaws. And our fine feathered friend is a jolly toucan, and toucan sound better than one toucan can. A few years after that, my family began regularly attending a church. And once at church, you better believe that the miseducation just doubled down. It's one thing to hear your mother say that evolution is a lie. It's a completely different thing to hear it from your whole church community.
Our children teeter on the brink. We need to teach them what to think. Trust us to tell them the truth.
It was in church that I was introduced to the concept of Genesis apologetics. The classics such as, if we evolved from monkeys, why are there still monkeys?
Well, this was interesting though. If that is true, why are there still apes? Think about it.
It takes more faith to believe in evolution, or the very slight variance. Evolution is a religion.
And sadly, millions of kids are being indoctrinated into a belief system that isn't even scientifically sound. Much of it taken on faith.
Or we could try the watchmaker argument. If you see a watch, you know there's a watchmaker. Because of that, we know there's a creator of the universe because of creation.
To have things made, you've got to have a maker. You can't have a creation without a creator. Show me a building that didn't have a builder. Show me a painting that didn't have a painter. Mouth.
Or perhaps Darwin actually recanted the theory of evolution on his deathbed.
You know, Charles Darwin even started having significant doubts before the end of his life that evolution was true.
Or if we evolved, there would be transitory fossils, and there are none found. There's no missing links found.
If your elitist East Coast evolution is real, why has no one found the missing link between modern humans and ancient apes?
We did find it. It's called Homo erectus.
Then you have proven my case, sir. For no one has found the link between apes and this Homo erectus.
Yes, they have. It's called Homo habilis.
Aha! But no one has found the missing link between apes and Homo erectus.
Yes, they have. It's called Homo habilis.
Oh, I got you now. Fair enough. Where then? The missing link between apes and
Or, and this is one that I heard from, youth group's wife, the youth pastor's wife. I did not mean to imply she was married to the entire youth group. She was asked, how come with Adam and Eve and their offspring, and again with Noah and all his offspring, how come incest didn't cause a problem? Oh, well, you gotta see, back then it was okay because the gene pool was pure.
When the race was pure, there were no defective genes, no defective chromosomes. You would not have any deformed children.
Interpret that one however you're gonna interpret it. And I can't believe I forgot it, but evolution is just a theory. A game theory.
Evolution not taught as a sincere theory of biologists, but rather, Mr. Speaker, taught as fact.
And then on top of church, there was the merchandise at Christian bookstores, such as t-shirts that read, God spoke and bang, it happened. Or you could try the Jesus fish eating the Darwin fish. And then there's the Kent Hovind of it all.
When the race was pure, there were no defective genes, no defective chromosomes. You would not have any deformed children.
There are many Genesis apologists, such as Ken Ham, Kirk Cameron, and Ray Comfort, to name only a few. But Mr. Kent Hovind is, a horse of a different color.
Evolutionists and atheists, we're trying to help, okay? Knock it off, wake up, you're stupid, okay?
He is a Genesis apologist who cosplays as a doctor, having earned his doctorate from Patriot Bible University, an unaccredited school in Colorado. What he does is give seminars that explains how science supports the creation story of Genesis.
The sideways moving water at 900 miles an hour would take all the rocks and roll them against each other like a rock tumbler does and round them off. All over the world, gravel is rounded. They call it river rock. No, This is from the flood. It was rounded back and forth by the tide going back and forth.
If I went ahead and laid out all his arguments, this video would be longer and more bloated than a Maliar video, so I'm just going to keep it to a few points that he argues. The Great Flood did it.
They're found at the bottom of the layers of strata, normally. And the evolutionists will say, aha, see, that proves they evolved first, because they're at the bottom. No, they're already at the bottom when the flood starts. That's where they live. These critters crawl around the bottom of the ocean floor. Trilobites are already as clams are already at the bottom because that's where they live. They're at the bottom when the flood starts. Like, duh, doesn't prove they evolved first. How can they be so dumb?
Carbon dating is wrong.
Okay, here's one from Joseph, who writes in. Do the other forms of radiometric dating, like potassium, argon, uranium, lead dating, have the same flaws as carbon-14 dating? Yes, they do. All of them are based on the assumption that the decay rate remains the same all through time and all through space.
Evolutionists believe we came from rocks.
Anyway, why people believe weird things? Michael Shermer. Yep, they do, Michael. Skeptic Magazine. They believe you came from a rock. That's a weird thing to believe.
Kinds.
Show me where I've been saying something that's not true. I have been saying for a long time, the animals will bring forth after their kind. 10 times in the first chapter, it says the animals bring forth after their kind. 10 more times in the flood story, chapter 6 and 7.
And perhaps best of all, evolution is dumb for big dumb heads.
I'm pointing out, Bible is true, evolution is stupid. It's dumb, it's retarded.
Take that book and shove it so far up your righteous asses that you choke. Soul-soliciting pig-fuckers.
Now, this might be a bit of an ad hominem, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that he served time in prison for tax evasion.
Hey, brother, you spent 15 months researching my case on, and you did the the video series on KentHovind.com. Tell me, did I break any of the tax laws that applied to me?
Not a single one.
Did the government or the government acting people break any laws to get me convicted?
Yes, well over 100 of them.
Well over 100 laws were broken by the government to put me in prison.
He is currently seeking a retrial for a domestic abuse situation with his third ex-wife.
Court over here ruled Hovind's guilty and has to pay $100 for be out on bail, and we're putting it on appeal.
And the applicable video has been taken down. I can't see it in whole, so I can't necessarily say 100% for a fact. He might have threatened his son Eric Hovind with legal action. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are you wasting time talking about Kent Hovind? And the truth of the matter is that he likes to respond to atheists who have talked about him. And, well, at the end of the day, I just want Senpai to notice me.
We're going to whack you all tonight at the same time. Shotgun approach.
At that point, it might just be best to call it bukkake. Oh, yeah, and I guess because when I was young, my parents borrowed a copy of one of his creation seminars from the church library, and that just gave me more fuel to my anti-evolution fire. I don't know if that metaphor works. He's what introduced me to the Young Earth part of Young Earth Creationist. It was his seminars that introduced me to the idea that the Earth was not millions or billions of years old, but was, again, only around 6,000.
I said, okay, now, sir, hold it. If I told you that I believe about 6,000 years ago God created the heaven and the earth, then you're going to say, and where did God come from? And I have no idea. But you said 20 billion years ago there was a big bang, and you don't know where the dirt came from. So basically, I believe in the beginning God, and you believe in the beginning dirt.
And I would be even more remiss if I didn't point out that his latest creation seminar begins with his son Eric Hovind talking over classical gas.
Have you ever thought about it? I mean, really, what is the purpose to life? Why are we here? Where did we come from? For that matter, where are we going to go when this life is over? In this seminar, it talks about the age of the Earth. Dr. Hovind gives solid evidence to show that this Earth is not billions of years old. In fact, the evidence points towards a literal 6-day creation, like told about in Genesis chapter 1. Hi, my name is Aaron, and we hope you enjoy this incredibly powerful seminar presented by Dr. Hovind. It's called The Age of the Earth.
I'm going to say one nice thing about him, so here you go, Mr. Hovind. He loves a good dad joke. Like, oh boy, there's a lot of them.
Okay, this is not my wife. That's just a picture of her.
Last summer was our 31st anniversary, and we sat down and figured out how much money we have spent since we got married. We have spent all of it. I have 3 children, 1 of each.
What does Kent mean by that? Because I hear that, and my queer mind goes to he has a child that is intersex or non-binary? If you're looking for any advice from me, Mr. Hovind, for your YouTube stuff, I kind of see that there's less dad jokes. Maybe go back to them. I like dad jokes. That's me, but I think it works for you.
So dinosaurs were big lizards that lived with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They did not live millions of years ago.
Thank you, Professor Farnsworth, for your generous gift, which has once and for all disproven evolution. Behold, Homo Farnsworth frolicking with dinosaurs at the moment of creation.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
In 2005, the Kansas State Board of Education would adopt policies that would teach intelligent design alongside evolution.
Of course, I'm obligated by the state of Kansas to present the church's alternative to the theory of evolution.
I've never lived in Kansas. The closest I've ever been is a layover that I had at Kansas City International Airport, and that's in Missouri. Didn't stop me from getting anti-evolution learning in high school. The teacher I had for American history was someone that believed in intelligent design. That is not speculative, he told me. Wouldn't be a problem because he didn't tell that to the class, he told that to me. We were just discussing whatever, blah, 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 blah. But of course, there's more. The thing he had us do that school year was recreate the Scopes monkey trial. The Scopes monkey trial is an affair about a century ago in Tennessee. Tennessee outlawed the teaching of evolution in schools, and the ACLU had John Scope, I think his name was John. They funded him when he decided, yeah, I'm still going to teach evolution. Also, they had old books, so there's nothing he could have really done. That was a whole big affair. It took the nation captive for as long as it happened. Again, another thing that is okay, it is American history, so I see how it works, but there's even more. In fact, this is the person that I heard that the Nazis believed in evolution. Hitler admired Darwin. The idea of a master race was that based in evolution.
Evolution is really the foundation, foundational ideas, foundational beliefs, and what we see with Hitler is just a way in which he carried those beliefs out, because he believed that certain races were inferior and certain races were superior.
There could have been no Holocaust without Darwinism. That's my view. So I've always had my suspicions about Darwinism.
That is a hard no. White supremacy existed before the theory of evolution, and to suggest that evolution is the founding cause of bigotry misunderstands humanity, evolution, and bigotry. This was the teacher that I also heard, the Civil War is about states' rights. There is one silver lining, however. This was about 2 years after evolution had been made palatable to me. Something that had been instilled in me was that by the time I began high school, evolution would be force-fed to me like the slurry forced down the gullets of the foie gras goose.
Dinner's ready. Where's Grandpa?
Oh! That's your grandpa?
Haven't you heard? Our ancestors are monkeys.
Oh no! He's eating the baby! Stop him, honey!
We can't. It's against the law to teach creationism.
What if you had to go to a school where the teacher said creationism is stupid, and you're stupid if you believe in it?
I think they should.
Well, or what if you had to go to a school where your teacher said evolution is stupid, and you're stupid if you believe in it?
I wouldn't mind that.
You wouldn't mind it.
And I guess the closest thing that ever happened to that was my freshman year biology class. My teacher that year was a mild-mannered woman who I got along with quite well. Eventually, she would go on to teach evolution, and it was then that I knew I needed to take my stand.
Well, it seems to me that that's just what's missing from the whole idea of evolution.
What's missing?
Evidence. Evidence is missing. It just seems that it takes much more faith to believe in evolution than to believe in a designer.
I didn't do anything dramatic. I didn't step up in class when she was teaching and cause a disruption. but I did make my thoughts known. At the end of the first week of Evolution Learnin, we were given a pop quiz, and on there's the question, perhaps a little too on the nose, what is evolution? Well, that's just perfect. That gave me a perfect opportunity to write baloney. The day that I received the graded quiz, I realized two things. Baloney was spelled B-O-L-O-G-N-A, and the theory of evolution could coexist with Christianity. It turns out that my teacher was a Christian, and she did believe in the theory of evolution.
If God is the creator of all, then the truth of science and the truth of religion are not at odds with one another, but challenge us to come to a greater understanding of God than we could with only one in isolation.
She was Catholic, and to me at that time, I thought of Catholicism as just a more conservative style of Christianity, and Christianity with extra steps. I didn't know that as a Protestant, I was supposed to hate Catholicism.
You're right. The Roman Catholic Church has been way ahead of Protestantism for a long time on the life issue. Just don't link arms with them. Because remember, I know this always sounds radical, but by partnering with somebody who is a false teacher, because we think that it will do some good, we tell the world that we're on the same page theologically, and undermining God's word is actually, get ready for this, worse than the sin of abortion.
Luckily, that had never been instilled in me. I didn't right away believe the idea of abiogenesis or the Big Bang, but that God did create the species and he himself had a hand in evolution. The final nail in the coffin was something that my maternal grandfather put in my head. It's kind of shameful for me to admit it, but I had never thought of the Genesis story as metaphor.
Is Genesis 1 poetry? No, it's not poetry. It's historical narrative. It includes details, names of places, names of people. You don't do that in poetry. You do that in historical narrative.
In a conversation with my mother and I, he would tell us that he believes that the 6 days of creations were not literal days, but instead eons. I was too dumbstruck to make any kind of argument, but not my mother. She still had her argument. He rebutted her question with 2 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day.
If a year goes by, it might seem a day. If a day goes by, it could take a year.
If man was created in 6 days, and the first 5 days were not observed by man, in my mind, it kind of made sense that we couldn't really measure that time, because heaven, time doesn't make sense. It's a different dimension or whatever. This would make God a more unreliable narrator than Chief Bromden. Once that was put into my mind, the final roadblock had been removed. It wasn't instantaneous, of course. It took much more learning and much more thinking, but eventually I am where I am now. And my atheism has nothing to do with evolution. Evolution and atheism, completely different things. If evolution came out to be false, it wouldn't mean that, oh, there must be a God. It would just mean evolution's false. We need to find out what's true now. It doesn't automatically mean God. The deconversion that eventually led to my atheism was based on me questioning my epistemology. And I kind of go into that one a little bit on my video on Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Although I do not use the word epistemology, I didn't know that word then, I wish I had. And I didn't really write a closing paragraph, so here I am just rambling. I don't know what else to really say, except if Mr. Hovind, you do see this video, you're going to do that thing where you're like, oh, challenge me, call 1-800-BIG-DINO or whatever it is. That number is 855-BIG-DINO, extension 3. And set up a debate. No, thank you. People smarter than I have tried, and yet still here you are. I don't have the hubris to believe that I'm going to be the person to change your mind. So don't even bother. If you do see my video and I feel like there are things that I need to address or whatever, maybe I'll talk to you again. I'm good. I'm done. Was it as good for you as it was for me? So in closing, I just want to thank you all for sticking around this long and, just take care of yourselves, y'all. And I feel like it's time for one more hat. I have way too much hair. But, yeah. Thanks for stopping by. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Remember that you are valid. Bye-bye. Yeah, no, I have way too fat a head and way too thick a hair.